Hi guys, what is going on, and welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade as we dive into some camels. Currently my favourite looking unit we've ever had introduced into the game when they load. There we go. I do think they look seriously badass. I said so in the PTR, they just look absolutely epic. And after I tested them in the PTR, I loved the look of them, but I thought, yeah, okay, these are going to be a bit crap. Actually, as it turns out, they're quite fun. And actually, they're not all that bad. They are quite enjoyable and they're pretty decent. They're not amazing, they're not groundbreaking, they're not going to be winning you great numbers of games, but they are pretty reasonable and pretty fun. So let's break a little bit down how their abilities work and what are they like. First thing to say is they are chonky on the hit points. 22,500 hit points. And they're fairly tanky with that. With Doctrines, I'm up to sort of 800 on piercing, 770 on slashing, which is pretty solid. Add into that, these units always have some slight hidden statistics in terms of amount of sort of damage absorption they get on top of base defensive stats. It doesn't show you, there's no sort of information on that, but it's definitely there. And it's pretty good for this unit, so it makes them feel like a fairly tanky unit. As long as you don't go and charge a unit of 4 Brachio's, you'll generally hold up pretty well. Now they get obviously piercing because they've got Lancers, piercing AP and piercing damage, both pretty reasonable. Now they get 2 abilities. They get a brace ability, which is called Barricade, which is where the unit basically, the camels sit down on the floor, the soldiers plant their pikes into the ground, and we basically act as a braced unit. Very effective against cavalry, and they basically get stun immunity, so you can't knock them over or anything like that. Can be a nice ability, can be okay in some of those sort of larger fights where you just want to sort of secure a back line, and I kind of like it. There's 2 things I have a problem with, I guess. Is it really any better than the charge? I'm not so sure. It is slightly better against cavalry, but the charge is very effective against cavalry anyway, so is it really necessary to go into the brace? And 2 is the fact it takes quite a long time to activate. The camels actually have to, physically sit down for it to activate. It takes a second or 2 to get into position. So then their second ability is Charge, which is a little bit deceptive, if I'm honest. You don't choose the charge direction or how they charge or how it works per se. When you activate Charge, I guess the closest description is a bull in a china shop. They just sort of wander around completely aimlessly in a semicircle and just sort of walk into stuff. And it sounds really crap, but actually it sort of works. If you can sort of position the unit, I'm using the wedge most often, to sort of get them behind a unit, moving them through, and then you activate the charge, they'll still sort of move in that direction. And then because I've gone down the bottom veterancy line, we get this sort of, when they use normal attacks or charge, they send soldiers flying. It's a they may, so it doesn't always happen, but it's quite nice when you just walk them into a back of a unit of stalwarts or something and suddenly sort of all hell breaks loose because they just go and they just nudge the whole unit forwards and out of place. Adding to the fact that they're actually really kind of tanky, it makes them relatively hard to kill for enemy units, particularly when there's sort of big fights going on and no one's really sure where anyone is. And these units, these camels, just end up wandering around in these fights in a circle, just sort of slowly picking up kills. And it just sort of works. At least that's my experience of them so far. Probably not exactly a description of the most skilled plays ever. Send them in and just let them aimlessly wander around. But I don't know, kind of enjoyable. Anyway, there are only 225 leadership at the moment. Obviously, I think there's a 10 leadership reduction because they're an on-season unit. And unit kits, I own one, so I can't really tell you how much that is. But camels coming in at about 5,000 each. In terms of doctrines, pretty standard selection of stuff. We get the Camel Defense Doctrine, which is from the seasonal challenges. We don't have any seasonal quests this season, so nothing there. I've also thrown on a Defense Doctrine because they're quite tanky. So that's really adding me, 160 essentially defense points to all sections, and that 4% damage reduction makes it kind of pretty tasty. On top of that, I just threw on a Damage Doctrine just to nudge that piercing damage up a little bit. Probably not necessarily the greatest doctrine for this unit particularly. A little bit of extra health is nice, but they've already got 22,000. A little bit more isn't vastly helpful. And then, of course, a Siege Fighter and a Breakthrough Doctrine just to increase their base damage to enemy units. Anyway, I think we've waffled on more than long enough about our little camels. Let's hop into some battles, see what we can do with them. A short clip to get us started. I just wanted to show a real world example of braced versus non-braced. This guy braces his camels. Part of the problem is they always face forwards, and so they only do damage from one direction. My bulls, my camels in their china shop, just aimlessly wander around, and they're avoiding the damage most of the time. And you can see, essentially, we take a pretty minimal amount of damage. Yeah, okay, I'm helping with my hero, but we pretty effectively wipe through the enemy camels. I just find in most situations, the charge is better than the brace. Not always, but a lot of the time. Anyway, next clip, we're over onto Riverland's castle. Enemies really stacked the corner with stalwarts. You know, really common position to defend the agate here. Team's starting to push in. And this is where I want to use kind of the disruption element of the camels. So I pull in and go left to give me room, and now I can flank. So the charge doesn't control which direction they go, but I can push them round, and now I activate charge. And they flank in, and they push into the back of the unit. 5 kills instantly, and they start to cause disruption. And you can see they start to rack up kills, and it enables me to get in as well and go a little bit ham with the hero, and the rest of the team starts to push in. And the camels just wandering around, slowly picking up kills. Picking up a few kills with the hero, but the bulk of the damage here is from the camels. Gets us sort of 30-40 kills. I suppose for a tier 4 unit you would expect it to do that, but actually it was just kind of quite a useful unit in that situation. One thing I would point out about the camels is that they are incredibly stupid. The AI is fairly shocking. They will get caught on every door, branch, random sundry bit of wood in the road. Yeah, they're a little bit sort of clunky sometimes in how they work. Which can be a little bit frustrating, but if you sort of have to, I find you get a lot better if you manually X them around. Anyway, defending now on Sun City, down to the final base point. And we get a few little enemies messing around at the back, and that opens up a little bit of an opportunity for us. Not really a lot there in terms of the Imperial Shields, but we can quite happily push into a little unit of stalwarts here. Helps if we get obviously a little bit of disruption with my hero, and then the unit could just wanders its way through, and they just stab, pick up kills, hero kill. Actually does quite a lot of damage as they walk through a unit like that, particularly if you can get sort of all 12 of them to sort of relatively push through a unit at once, then it can genuinely be quite effective. You can see what I mean about being a little bit stupid. Some of them still milling around at the back of the map, even though they'd been told to move 30 seconds ago. Anyway, and you can see that push through a unit of stalwarts with a little bit of hero use. Obviously, if you're pushing directly into the front, or particularly like a long line of stalwarts where the unit can't get through, then it's a little bit more difficult. Get some enemy cavalry pushing through. Sort of umming and ahhing if I wanted to pull the unit back out here, but the team seems to be dealing with it fairly effectively and seems to be able to push them down anyway. So I just take the opportunity to get the unit back to the supply point, get it healed up, and get myself healed up as well. 30 seconds or so later, unit's healed up, we can get back on the attack a little bit, pushing back out the same way because we've got a unit of enemy spear sergeants, I think, or maybe a spear militia here at the back, and we could just push into the unit. Same thing, going straight on with the charge ability. This, the Dachi gave us a little bit more trouble, actually managed to get away, damn him. But we can deal with the unit without too much problem. We do take a little bit more damage, but the unit, again, wanders around, just slowly picking up its kills. So I mean when I say it's kind of quite an odd unit in how it behaves. It is also relatively slow. It doesn't really move like a cavalry unit. I guess it's more like a fast infantry unit sort of pace. You've got to bear that in mind. So you're never going to escape enemy cavalry. But you do deal with enemy cavalry fairly convincingly. As so, we can charge in. We basically take very minimal damage against armigers like this. Nice obviously that you can control them a little bit with your hero to basically allow your unit to catch up and do the damage, because ultimately you are a lot slower. And that is one of the other problems, I suppose, with the brace, is that it kind of relies on the enemy charging you. And while that's okay as infantry where you're trying to protect a block, or maybe you can hide units and stuff, with these camels, most sort of decent armiger players in that situation would just avoid me. And so I think it's kind of much more effective just to use that charge ability. It's more than enough domination, at least against other tier 4 cavalry, to really quite easily win. Whilst the unit was once again healing up, we started to get a little bit of pressure on the main cap point. Decided that we probably want to start to think about getting involved, so start to come down with the unit, have a little bit of a look at the situation, decide to sort of just run the gauntlet of Trebs and just push straight in. Go straight on with my charge, and we start to sort of get involved into the melee. Getting some forte brachiots initially. They are obviously not embraced, so we can get away with it a little bit more. And you can see how we do pick up kills still relatively quickly, considering what the unit is. And we can start to push in and start to wipe some of the stuff out. We do start to take a few more casualties here, unfortunately, particularly as we get more trebs coming in. Seem to be picking up most of the game's trebs, as I have to grab myself a little bit of a healing. But even so, unit's still picking up a few kills. I think a few of them in this case are actually sort of caught on the corner, and that's kind of what I mean when I say that the AI is something that needs work. I think you can see my confusion here, thinking, where the hell's the unit? And they're all stuck on a spy stool. God damn it. If the AI was a little bit better, this unit really would be really great. Anyway, with what's left of them, we still get back on the offensive, put our little charge on, and gently saunter our way into the fight. Such a fun little unit. And yeah, you see, not, devastatingly effective, but it does do quite a chunk of damage. And it causes that disruption. And particularly in the game meta at the moment where kind of stalwarts are absolutely everywhere, then that is quite a nice thing to have because it disrupts their formation and that then allows your allies, stalwarts or fortebrasses, which are braced into the front of them, to hit through the block. And that's why that's actually can be quite an effective thing to do. Anyway, we managed to get ourselves sort of 50 or 60 kills in this game and a couple of hero kills. So not too bad a performance for what the camels really are. So are they worth unlocking? I guess that's the question. I think if you're looking for really sort of meta units, no, they're not that great, but they are quite a unique unit, and they are actually pretty fun to play. I've actually really quite enjoyed using these guys. It's quite a change, so if you've been around a while, certainly would recommend giving them a little bit of a test out, because they can be a lot of fun. Well, that was a nice charge into seeing how the brace can work. Ooh, nice. So yeah, would certainly give them a check out, but if you're a newer player, I'd perhaps give them a miss until you've got a few more key meta units under your belt before you're pushing on. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed a little bit of a camel-related chaos. If you have, leave me a comment down in the comment section down below. Of course, subscribe to the channel for lots more Conqueror's Blade content. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all on the next one.
Spread out and attack!